But then the experience I had was like a blammo, it was like, wow, can't deny this anymore kind of thing.
Welcome to the Orykl Podcast, where spirituality, inspiration, and education come together. We have 3 playlists. In Spiritual Stories, we explore profound moments in personal spiritual journeys. In Spiritual Entrepreneurship, we share insights to help spiritual practitioners and their businesses thrive. And in Spiritual Leadership, I offer my perspective on leading with authenticity and heart. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Orykl Podcast. Today, I am chatting with Barb Angelo. She's one of the vetted practitioners here in Orykl. And before I introduce her, I'd just like to read quickly the little excerpt that we have on our website about Barb. Barb is a board-certified hypnotist, past life regression therapist, and a channeler with a gift for guiding people to deeper self-awareness. Inspired by many lives, many masters, she became a hypnotist in 2007, seeking past life experiences for herself. A spontaneous regression cracked her open to deeper dimensions, and in 2009, she began channeling profound spiritual messages. With humor and heart, Barb connects clients to higher wisdom, helping them understand their soul's journey. Barb, it's so lovely to have you here. Thank you for joining us.
Oh, thank you for having me. I'm very excited. I love talking with you, and I'm going to be sharing my story, which is like one of the first times I'm doing this. So I'm excited.
Well, I'm excited too. Thank you for doing that here on Orykl. And before we start talking about your story, because I'd love people to know a little bit about you from, your whole life journey, but tell us a little bit more about Barb today. What is it that you do today, and what are you focusing on?
I've been, as you said in your intro, I've been a board certified hypnotist, a past life regression therapist. I train people as well. So I've been a teacher for over a decade. So I've been doing that for a long time. And in 2009, I became a channel. I didn't even know what it was. I had to have somebody else told me, a very advanced medium actually gave someone I knew a message and said, tell Barb she's a powerful channel. And I said, what's that? I've been kind of hiding that part of me because it was hard to explain what it was. So right now, I still do hypnotherapy. I help people align with their soul's purpose, meaning I can guide them to higher states, an elevated state of emotion, elevated state of consciousness, where they then can see and feel things for themselves and understand things. What I'm really focusing more on now, and I just made this decision, is doing more of the readings because I really feel like this is what I'm here to do. So I have all the experience. I still do see people. I love doing hypnotherapy. I incorporate past lives in hypnotherapy because it's part of the process. I do not do like single sessions for past life regression because sometimes people just aren't ready for it. And they hear about it and they think, oh, I want to do this. And doesn't always mean it's the time for them. So when I can work with them and see how they are and where they are, and then in the second or third session, we say, okay, let's go there. So I'm like a kid in a candy store. I say, oh, I could do this. I could do this. I'm still excited after almost 20 years. It's so exciting.
That's brilliant. It sounds like you're living your life's purpose, so it makes you a very good teacher to help other people do the same. So I am very interested to hear about the beginnings of your channeling. But before we go there, why don't you take us back to when you were a child? Tell us a little bit about how you grew up and if you were maybe more connected to spirits than the average child, or maybe not. We maybe had a very normal childhood.
It's funny because little little Barbara, was a scaredy cat. I realize now I would pick up, I was an empath and I could pick up energy. But to this day, I've never seen a ghost. I've heard them. I felt them. I've had a couple attached spirits, which is not a pleasant experience, but I was able to help them. So that's also what I can do. But I was very intuitive, very creative, very artistic. I was the kind of kid who could fit in because I learned how to, but I would prefer to spend my time outside looking at clouds or playing with bugs or frogs and drawing and coloring and having these great make-believe kind of play time. That's where I love to do. But When I say I felt different and I didn't fit in, it's not true because I always had friends. But I kind of felt like I knew how to do that. Like I could be a different person to fit in. But I wasn't that person. I hear so many people that are interviewed or talk about, oh, as a child, I was so psychic and I was a medium. No, not me. Not me. Intuitive, yes.
Yeah.
But I followed the breadcrumbs at a certain point over the years and I slowly opened up. But then the experience I had was like kablamo. It was like, wow, can't deny this anymore kind of thing.
I can relate to little Barb. I've seen little Barbs around, yes. When we are so creative, it's nice to allow that creativity to keep expressing itself as little kids, right? So tell me, from your teenage years to when you actually started getting into this work, what was that like and how did you get into spirituality?
So I became more intuitive and more psychic in my teen years. And I remember having premonitions. One of them was my father was going to have a heart attack. I blurted it out one day. The other was, I'm not going to get married until I'm older and I'm going to marry a man who's divorced with a child. I think I was 16 when I said that, or 17. I have no idea why, but it came out. My father had the heart attack when I was 19. When it was happening, I remember saying, here it is, here it is, here it comes, here it comes. He survived, thankfully, but he had a near-death experience. And so he had his own experience. My father, I believe, is a guide for somebody else right now because he did pass eventually. But the interesting thing is, he wanted to tell me about it after he recovered because he was in intensive care and almost died. I had my fingers in my ears. It terrified me for some reason. Literally, I was, no, 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 I can't. And I look back and I think, again, I wasn't ready, but now I can go back to that and remember what he told me. And the first thing he said was, I don't fear death at all. And so I've had these things again, like leading up to what then I stepped into as my purpose. So that was mostly the teen years, early 20s. Oh, I was off on a completely different path, not aligning. But I always knew there was something. I knew that I hate to say I was special in some way, but we all are because we know we have this purpose and it's there and we're thinking, what is it? Where is it? I'm supposed to be doing something. I kept thinking and I was looking for that, whatever that was.
No, I know exactly what you mean. And so went the conventional route, let's say you had a normal job and
No.
no. Okay, tell us more.
So I loved connecting with people. I worked in the restaurant business, which is normal, but my friends all worked in offices. I thought that was the most boring thing in the world to do the same thing from 9 to 5. And then every Friday they would say, thank God it's Friday. I worked Fridays and Saturdays. I met some incredible people. I have stories that people still laugh about, the people that I met. And again, I feel like it was really preparing me for the work I do now. I meet all kinds of people. I meet people who are high levels, entrepreneurs, celebrities. I meet people who are moms or waitresses, bartenders, servers, whatever. And I feel like I can relate to all of them in some way. Like I can really understand where they're coming from. But I had a very unconventional. I would try to be conventional. I would try to be traditional and I couldn't do it. Just couldn't force myself. And I always thought there was something wrong with me. Why can't I do this? But I'm so glad I didn't. I didn't take that route and just, be there doing the same thing all of the time. I wanted to explore, and I did.
And how did you explore?
Different jobs. I worked for the NFL. That was the last kind of job that I had where I met my husband and was working for a corporation before working for myself. And during my vacation, I took a 15-hour train ride to South Carolina to learn how to be an auctioneer. Just because I thought it would be interesting. Those kinds of things. People thought I was crazy and I thought, why wouldn't you?
How did you get into this line of work then?
So like a lot of people who find me now, somehow I discovered there was no internet when I found this book. So I got it from my local library. Thank you, Mount Laurel Library, because they had some really interesting books when nobody had these books. And I read Brian Wise's Many Lives, Many Masters, which really has opened up so many people. The interesting thing is now, again, when I look back, the past life regression story was fascinating enough, but the masters, I didn't quite understand that. So I'm sure people have read it, so I'm not going to go into the whole book. But he got messages from his client, from his patient, when she was under hypnosis. She did not remember them afterwards, but she channeled masters that gave him messages. And I just kind of tucked that away and thought, it's interesting. I've never heard of anything like that. So when things started happening to me, I remembered, oh, wait a minute. Huh. I think that's what this is. But I have to
Yes.
say, I'm glad when it happened to me. I didn't know anything. I had no preconceived ideas or notions or any information. I had to figure it out on my own, which during that time I would cry and say, I don't know what to do. What's happening to me? And I think it was meant for me to figure it out on my own.
Because yes, tell us more about that experience. When did it happen and what exactly happened? I know it was pretty fascinating.
It's almost hard to put into words. So when I do tell people, I can only remember the feeling I had. I had been a hypnotist for 2 years. I had, when I say dabbled, I had learned so many things, Reiki, and took, I read books about being a psychic and tried to be a medium, and it just kind of didn't happen the way it was supposed to. And it was just a typical night. I was over a neighbor's house, as a matter of fact, sitting and having a cosmopolitan outside. And all of a sudden I said, I'm going home. And she said, oh, you're leaving. And I said, I just feel like I want to go home for some reason. Went home, turned the TV on. The TV screen started turning red. And I thought, what's wrong with the TV? So I went into the bedroom and I had been learning Reiki at the time. And do you do Reiki? If you do, I'm sure you know a lot about it. You have to memorize these symbols. So I was doing it with my finger, like trying to write these symbols in the air as I'm propped up in bed. And all of a sudden, I started doing them with two hands, and they were just doing them on their own. And I'm fascinated, going, oh my gosh, like, what is this? Upside down, backwards. My husband came home and walked in and said, what are you doing? And I put my hands down and said, nothing. And I got up and walked out, and he watched me, and I went back into my family room. And for the next 2 hours, I had this experience that I don't remember all of it, but I was so present, and this is how I channel. I was so present as it was happening, and part of me knew that I wasn't going to remember everything, and I was trying to hold on to it. And I wish there was a camera on me to see what I was doing, because I was doing movements like I kind of was doing before with my hands. And I, at one point, said or felt, I've been waiting for this my whole life. And Barbara said, what? What are we waiting for? What's happening? So it's like there's two of you. And I always tell my clients there is two of you. There's that spirit, the soul that knows, and then the personality and the ego that's commenting and questioning. And at one point, I was kind of crying, and I looked in the corner, and even though I didn't see with my eyes, I knew there was someone or something in the corner, and I looked up and said, I still get so emotional. I said, I'm not worthy, in my head and out loud. And whatever the response was, I nodded and said, okay. And I knew that I was accepting and remembering something. And again, Barbara's saying, what? What did we just agree to? Why are we nodding our head? That was an experience that's hard to kind of comprehend or explain, that there is that. You're watching yourself, you're feeling yourself. It also was the most natural, wonderful, comfortable feeling, like, oh, here I am. This is me. This is me. And everything up to then was not completely me.
Yeah.
After that, it ended finally, and I went back to bed, and I shook my husband awake, and I started telling him things, and he fell back asleep. I went to sleep, never had a nighttime where I didn't dream, slept completely peacefully and soundly. He woke me up and said, what happened to you last night? And I went, it wasn't a dream. Oh my gosh, it really happened. And it all started coming back to me. I didn't leave the house for 3 days because I couldn't. I was in a state of spiritual bliss. And for 6
Yeah.
months, I could not conjure up a negative thought, a judgment on anyone or myself. I was like
Wow.
radiating just this love and yeah, this incredible like feeling. And eventually, the outside world kind of comes back in. But then I tried to like
Mm.
logically figure it out and explain it, and I couldn't. I Googled it. I couldn't find anything. Even the teachers I thought were teachers, like a yoga instructor, for some reason, I thought maybe she knew more than me. And all she said to me was, "You shouldn't be doing that. It's dangerous." And I thought, I didn't try to do anything. And I realized I'm not going to share this story with people because I know what it is and I know what it felt like. But other people, they weren't there. They weren't me. They couldn't feel it.
And you didn't relate it to your dad's NDE,
No, no.
that feeling,
Um,
of not being afraid and feeling like you're totally you. Did you feel love when it happened?
Now, it's funny when you're saying that I said no. And now I realize I know that my father and I were alike in a
Mm.
lot of ways. That when I said to you in the beginning, I really feel like he's a guide in training somewhere. I know that. And it changed my father again because the outside world fell away. The stresses of every day, he said they don't matter. So I
Right.
think that he was supposed to be my father and that was supposed to happen so I could learn from it. And
Yeah.
you're right, you're in a different you feel something, you're in a different dimension, you're in a different reality at that moment. And so,
Yeah.
yes, yes, it wasn't the same meaning, the same story that people say they died or they had a tragic accident. Mine was literally out of the blue. It felt like,
Yeah.
what spurred this on? Like, I think they were saying, okay, it's time. Let's go.
In what year did that happen?
2009. It's been a while. Yes,
Yeah. Okay.
16 years.
And really you have been channeling since, but not publicly or very openly, right?
I have now I have a larger group because of my clients. I have a large group of a community. And the reason why that now I'm coming out more is there's more channelers out there. All of a sudden I'm aware and I'm thinking, wait a minute, I've been doing this for years. And I love that these younger people are out with it, completely out with it, accepting it, embracing it. I felt like it was my little secret that I would embrace on my own, and it was mine. It was my gift that I could sit and channel by myself. I've done small groups in the past, and when I say incredible things happened, they were wild, but I didn't then share them with the world. It was our little experience, or one-on-one people had experiences. And now
Yeah.
I feel like they're telling me it's time to really put it out there because they are teachers and they teach other people. And they heal. They do amazing things through me, and it's who I am. I'm a part
Yeah.
of them, actually. I'm a part of that group, I found out, yes.
So tell us a little bit more about that, about your channeling. What beings do you channel? Is it a group? Is it just one? Are they always the same? Yeah, maybe a little bit more about that.
The best thing I ever did, there was a man who has since passed named Richard Sutphin, Dick Sutphin, who wrote a New York Times bestselling book called You Were Meant to Be Together Again in the '70s about past lives. And he was a teacher at the NGH where I belong. I signed up for one of his classes and I knew they told me you need to get in touch with him. And we talked and I told him my story and he said, "Oh my gosh, I can't wait to do a session with you." So I did a private session with him and his medium, his girlfriend at the time, fiance at the time was a medium. And what we did was I channeled and he posed the questions that Barbara wanted to know to them. And
Mm.
then we got information from that. So I know, and there are people that can see them with their eyes. They are a group of 12. They don't, they're human. They have had, some of them have had human experiences, but they present as tall beings of light and they identify as the eternal beings of light. So when I started channeling and writing, they would sign things like that. And I would just kind of giggle and think, oh, that's nice. They
Mm.
represent ascended masters, the angelic realm. They are shapeshifters. So what they've told me is that I can see things on a person's face. This is another thing that I do that's a little unique. whether you're on Zoom or in person, when I look at a person and I go into a easy, quick trance state, I can see them illuminate. And a lot of times I see faces superimposed on them. Some
Mhm.
people have seen it on me that are able to do that.
What faces would you see superimposed?
They can be past lives. They can be the master teachers and guides working with them. One
Mm.
time I saw a gorilla on a woman's face and it startled me to no end. And I described it to her because I kept seeing it. And she took her phone out and I didn't know she was an artist. And she had been painting a portrait of a gorilla that had died at the zoo. And she said, I've been obsessed with him.
Wow.
So I think that it's what is in your energy field
Yeah.
too, even what you're thinking about. So I've seen past loved ones on someone's face and they might say, I was just thinking about them today,
Right.
or it's their birthday or their anniversary. I have channeled past loved ones, but I don't call myself a medium because I don't, and I've been told this and I know this as well. I'm kind of invisible to the astral plane. I work with higher dimensional beings, and I couldn't just sit and say, oh, let me tune in to your father or your grandfather. And when I tried doing that years ago, I would think it doesn't work. Why can I do? And all I wanted to do was channel. That's natural for me. So
Yeah.
these beings, they will allow loved ones to come through if there is healing and specific messages and teachings for them to know. And they've been
Yeah.
amazing what people will talk about and what they will tell them about themselves and about what it's like to be where they are.
Yeah. And what is it that you love the most about channeling for other people?
Unselfishly, I love the feeling. I
Mhm.
feel this incredible sense of love when I'm looking at the person, that I can feel the love for them, their very soul, who they are, how beautiful they are.
Yeah.
And when I fully am able to step out of the way and not let my ego filter, and what comes through with a person will say, "Oh my gosh," and it will change them. A lot of times it will change them. There'll be information that they'll say, "I needed to hear that," but it really is that energetic because they feel it as well, the energy of it. And it feels wonderful. So to me, if I could channel not all day long because we can't. In the beginning, when I was getting adjusted to the vibration, I wouldn't get exhausted, but I could feel like pressure in different places. And now when I'm done, I'm exhilarated. So
Mm.
I don't become drained. I become like energized from it. So that's what I love about that.
Well, you and I have not had a channeling session yet, but we must soon.
Yes, we must.
But maybe to close off, is there any message that you would love people to know about themselves? Like if they knew this about themselves and believed it, what would that be?
We as humans will look at our imperfections, our perceived failures, what we should be doing, what we didn't do. In the realm, the spiritual realm, especially in the higher realms, and they've told me they are applauding you. Again, I get emotional. Remember, you have a cheering section and they know how hard it is. They really do. They know that being on earth is a tough one, it's a challenge. You've accepted the challenge to be here. Remember that too. Your soul has said, I'm going to do this. Your soul is here to learn and to experience. And love is the highest experience and accepting of yourself. So when you love yourself and accept yourself as you are, but remember that there is no judgment there. They're not saying, you have to do this. Here's your checklist. Here, be productive and get this done. That's on you. And you are loved beyond measure and you're being applauded and cheered on every single minute and every single day. And there's no judgment.
Beautiful. Well, thank you. It's good to be reminded about these things, right?
Yes. And that was for you too.
Absolutely. Now, when we sit in meditation, we connect, we can feel that, and we can feel
Yeah.
that truth. And then as we go throughout the day, we completely forget about it, get stuck in our human lives, and
Yeah.
it can be overwhelming. And it's good to be reminded.
Right. Even if you don't feel it, tell yourself that, remind
Yes.
yourself that. Yes. To say, like, I have a cheering section. Wow. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Barb. I know that you offer sessions on Orykl. As I said, you and I have a pending one. But thank you for doing what you do and following your purpose and your passion and helping other people find theirs. So it's been a pleasure chatting with you, and thank you for sharing your story as well.
And well, thank you. And thank you. Just what you said for me, I'm saying the same thing back to you for bringing this out to the world. This is so important, especially now.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Bye-bye.